What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench Podcast Network and channel, giving a shout out to the rest of the crew. Shad, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, Big Dog, Talk Sports. That's right, that's right. Everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. Subscribe to the channel. Help make this show the best that it can be. Now, boy, I tell you, boy, they try to spread their fertilizer real quick. And this is just a quick video here. Anthony Davis, he was traded to the Dallas Mavericks last month for Luka Doncic. And these talking heads, these prognosticators, these so-called experts, they said that the Lakers improved defensively and that Anthony Davis held back the hurricane and that he was actually stalling the offense. That's what they said. But I tell you what. And like I say, I was totally opposed to the Lakers casting away the original young core. But Anthony Davis was deemed expendable at a certain point, just like the young core. But I'm telling you, with the hurricane on the team, the franchise is operating, how can I say this? Instead of playing basketball inside out, they're playing basketball outside in. What I mean by that, they have inversely pursued winning from the outside, meaning they're trying to build up a successful roster that can lead to a championship by relying on predominantly outside players via trades, via free agency every year. There was a point where, over half the roster were free agents signed during the off season over a 3-4 year period. I mean, that's mind-boggling. So what happens is, and this is just a word, man, to basketball fans in general, you cannot sustain a winning effort if you don't have your own players. You cannot sustain a winning effort if you do not have your own players. We saw that with the Lakers in 2022 when they made these trades. They brought in Russell Westbrook. They brought back Dwight Howard. They signed Carmelo Anthony. And he had 5 top 75 players, all-time players on the team, and they won 33 games. They didn't have no players of their own. So now, to try to anchor the ship, because they felt AD was an aged player on the back end of his prime, in theory, getting Luka Doncic extends your opportunity to win. But in all actuality, what it's doing is, let me put it this way. You mortgage the future to acquire Anthony Davis. And the player that you mortgage the future for, you traded him off to try to bring in a younger player. But the first wave is, when you trade for Anthony Davis, you created a circumstance where you had to continuously overhaul the roster year in and year out because of players that you waived and cut and traded to create the cap space necessary to take on his contract, as well as sign the Hurricane as a free agent. And then, as you miss the young talent, you try to fill that void by bringing in younger players from the outside who are low tier, and they're not as good as the original young core. That's what the Lakers are finding out again. As the regular season reaches its end, and for the past couple of games, the consensus was Jackson Hayes was this big-time replacement for AD at the center spot. Come on, man. He's a career, 5-point per game scorer. And it's showing right now, right before our eyes, he's a backup. He's not a starter. And most of these young players that got on the team that are from the outside, not necessarily Austin Reeves or Dalton Connect, but from the outside, They're low tier players. So what the Lakers are finding out is the longer you have the Hurricane on your team and the longer you keep on fooling yourself that he can lead you somewhere, you try to extend this window by trading for another superstar. But as other teams across the league or maintaining their own players, re-signing those young players to improve their roster and continue to build a long-term vision for success, the only players that's really available in free agency are low-tier players. You don't see them superstars out there like you did in 2019. And this is why the Lakers should have waited and not have brought the Hurricane to the team and waited till 2019 when you had the largest free agent pool in the history of the NBA. And I'm telling you, and you have all your draft picks, and I've said it time and time again, but it's proven to be true. This team is not a championship level squad. It's not even close. It's not even close. It's not even close. Because now when you trade for Luka, initially you will get a boost because you made a trade for another superstar. So when you go and play Denver and you blow them out, well, it's almost like you got a brand new squad. Not to mention the other players who you traded for prior to acquiring Luka and Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton and whoever else they brought up in there, along with the return of Jared Vanderbilt. He's not a starter. He's not a starter. So what I'm saying is, as you get deeper into the end of the season, teams are slowly going to adjust to what you try to do to try to get a boost in front of them. Teams will adjust. So come postseason, you really don't have anything coming. That's what happened to the Lakers versus Denver the past 2 years. And people, and I'm not saying Darvin Ham was the greatest coach because he was a first-time head coach. But at the time, they had to hire somebody. So Darvin Ham took the job, and they made a midseason trade of Russell Westbrook. They brought in a slew of young players. They got a boost. And then they played the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round, who was dealing with major injuries. Their starting center was out. Their backup center was out. Ja Morant was dealing with his situation. Plus, he got hurt. So you beat a kind of a depleted Memphis team, and then Golden State. Well, AD was able to feast on Golden State because they don't have no big man. He was the difference. But when you matched up against a real squad that was prime, that had been developing over the past 4 years, they didn't have anything coming. You see? And now you got OKC out there. Now you got Houston out there. And you still can't count Denver out. So what I'm saying is, man, this guy, the Hurricane, he got things thrown so off balance. But you've invested so much in trying to placate him that now anything that he suggests you think is going to work because you hope that you may strike you may strike gold, but it's fool's gold. That's the problem. So I just want to throw it out there real quick, man. AD, you know what I'm saying? They said he was expendable, but it sure don't look like after these last 2 games because they just lost to the Orlando Magic tonight by the score of 118 to 106. And then they lost to the Bulls in the worst defeat in Laker history versus their franchise. They got blown out. So now you starting to see the ill effects of that trade because in that trade, you gave up your 2 best defenders. You gave up your best perimeter defender in Max Christie, who's only 21 years old. Think about that. 21-year-old is your best perimeter player. So he was playing above his value as a second-round pick. Then you gave up your best interior defender and your anchor in Anthony Davis. And now teams are adjusting to it. That's why I say this ain't video game. This ain't 2K. This is the NBA. This is professional basketball. But the Hurricane, the way he pursues winning, it's not really conventional standard NBA basketball. Taking shortcuts. 1 year you put this roster together. Then mid-season you overhaul half the roster. You bring in a slew of guys. You know what I'm saying? So it's real out here, man. And there's no way in the world Jackson Hayes, who plays hard, but the problem is first of all, he's not as talented as AD. Number two, he's not even a starter, man. See, that's the thing, man. And that's why it's good to get familiar with players when they on other teams before they come to your team, or before they sign with your team, or before they brought to your team. So, like I said, man, at some point, the Lakers got to put an end to this, man. If not, the longer he remains on that team, the further they're going to dig down deep into that rabbit hole, and they're going to keep coming up with zeros at the end of the day. And they're going to catch the blame anyway. You see what I'm saying? It's a never-ending story, man. It's a never-ending story. But I just want to throw that gold nugget. Nothing surprises me. You know, when it get real, it start getting real deal Holyfield. But leave your comments and thoughts. And until next time, this is JB, and this is BTB. This is Behind the Bench.